Hello and welcome to Right Sports Talk. My name is Zach. We are officially 5 weeks through the UFL regular season. So that means that we've officially hit the halfway mark of the season. We are now on to the back half of the season. In week 5, I went 0 and 4 for my predictions, giving me an overall record of 9 and 11 through the first half of the season. Week 6 kicks off this Friday night, May 2nd, as the Arlington Renegades, who are 3-2, take on the St. Louis Battlehawks, who are also 3-2. Arlington is coming off of a very close shootout loss to the DC Defenders, and St. Louis is coming off of a close win over the Michigan Panthers. In that win, Hakeem Butler, their wide receiver, was finally able to come back and look fully healthy. And he looked a lot like he did last season when he was the UFL Offensive Player of the Year. Arlington, and their game against DC, they were out to a pretty decent-sized lead and ultimately gave up the comeback victory. And much has kind of been the case with when they have losses. It is, even dating back to last season, for how they lost games, is they would have a lead and they weren't able to quite put the game away. They let DC stick around, and although they were able to put up a bunch of points, they unfortunately were not able to stop DC when it mattered, and they fell at the end to lose that game. Now, my pick for this game, I am actually going to go with the St. Louis Battlehawks. These two teams actually played each other a couple weeks ago, and Arlington won that game. That was a game where Manny Wilkins suffered his injury, early on in the game. So Max Duggan had to come in, and he looked okay at times, but really did look a little unprepared and rattled throughout the game. I think that Max Duggan will look better. He looked way more prepared and significantly better when they play against the Michigan Panthers last week. Getting that week of preparation to be the starter. Has more time of preparation to be the starter. Max Duggan is somebody that was able to get it done with his arm, having a passing touchdown, as well as his legs. He had, I believe, 70 yards rushing and finished with 2 rushing touchdowns. So he really helped provide a spark, not only with his arm and his throwing ability, but the fact that he can scramble around. Obviously, they still have Jacob Sailors at running back, who continues to look good. He's one of the top running backs in the league. And if Hakeem Butler can stay healthy, which hopefully he can, he's arguably one of the best wide receivers in the league. And I think that trio, that group, as long as they're healthy, and it looks like Max Duggan can continue to improve as a quarterback, hopefully as the season goes on, and hopefully look better this week than he did last week against Michigan. So I do think that because of their offense, I think this could be another shootout win or another shootout game. But I think because of their offense, I do think that St. Louis gets the victory here against Arlington. Then on Saturday, you have the Memphis Showboats, who are 1-4, taking on the Houston Roughnecks, who are 2-3. Memphis is coming off of their first win of the season. It was an overtime game, an overtime victory over the Birmingham Stallions, where Memphis actually went with Dresser Wynn as their starting quarterback, and he played very well to help get them the victory. Wide receiver D. Anderson played very well. He had 93 yards and a receiving touchdown. And wide receiver Isaiah Henney returned a missed field goal right at the end of the half, 108 yards for a touchdown to kind of help swing the momentum in Memphis's favor going into the half, and that wound up being a big difference in what was such a close game. Houston, coming off of a pretty dominant victory over the San Antonio Brahmas, in which quarterback Jalen McClendon continued to play well. And his first actual start of the season, the week before against Birmingham, he had to go in after an injury and played well. Now, after being getting the whole week to prepare and be the actual starter, continued to look well. He did have an interception, did throw an interception, but ultimately they wound up being able to get the victory That didn't really make a difference for the game as their as their offense played. Their defense was the big difference maker, as Houston's defense did not give up a single touchdown against San Antonio. Now, my pick for this game, I am actually going to go with the Houston Roughnecks. I think this could also be a very close game. This was, going through the slate of games, my hardest game to pick, because both these teams have had so much change in how their team looks over the past few weeks. So these two teams played each other a couple weeks ago, and both the starting quarterbacks are different. A couple weeks ago for Houston, it was Anthony Brown being their starting quarterback, and for Memphis, it was E.J. Perry being their starting quarterback. It's now Dresser Wynn and Jalen McClendon. But ultimately, I do think that Houston gets the victory because Jalen McClendon has continued to look good when he's played, and their defense, I think, could again be the difference maker in this game to really help them get what I think could be a very close victory. Now, moving on to Sunday, May 4th, you have the DC Defenders, who are 4-1, taking on the Michigan Panthers, who are 3-2. DC coming off of that shootout comeback victory over the Arlington Renegades, and Michigan coming off of a close loss to the St. Louis Battlehawks. A big difference in what caused Michigan to lose that game was the fact that for some reason their coach Mike Nolan keeps thinking that Danny Etling should go in at quarterback at times. He, for whatever reason, will not just commit to Bryce Perkins to be their full-time starter, and it finally wound up costing them a game. Like, Bryce Perkins has been playing well. I talked in my week five prediction video about how he was playing at an MVP level for the league. But for some reason, they keep going back to Danny Etling for a few drives, and it really wound up costing them, as I believe Danny Etling had a turnover that really swung that game for St. Louis. Now, for going into this game, my pick will actually be the DC Defenders. As good as I think Bryce Perkins plays, he is a very talented quarterback and playing at a very high level. Michigan has also got their run game going pretty good the past few weeks with running back Toa Taua. But I just think the DC's offense is just a little bit better with their quarterback, Jordan Ta'amu. They've also got Abram Smith running very well as he continues to come farther off of his injury that cost him the whole season last year. And I think one of the big difference makers for them, for DC, is their defense has an ability to get pressure on the opposing quarterbacks, especially at key moments in the games. And I think that will be one of the major differences in this game, is that late in the game, they're going to be able to get pressure on Bryce Perkins and, maybe cause him to make some mistakes, have some errant throws, or, get a couple of sacks on him and, really kind of take over the game from the defensive side. So I do think that DC comes out of here with the victory. And your second game on Sunday, your final game of the weekend, you have the San Antonio Brahmas, who are 1-4, taking on the Birmingham Stallions, who are 3-2. San Antonio, obviously coming off that loss to Houston, to the Houston Roughnecks, in which their offense really struggled. Kellen Mond really struggled in that game. They actually wound up putting in Jarrett Garantano at quarterback, who hasn't played a snap all season for them yet, up until late into that game. He also struggled to lead their offense. Their offense just has not looked good. They looked good for a couple of games, and ultimately they just haven't been able to didn't find that spark against Houston. And the Birmingham Stallions, obviously coming off that loss to the Memphis Showboats, in which they actually had to have their third different starting quarterback in the first 5 games of the season, as Case Cookus was a starting quarterback, as Matt Corral was banged up the week before and actually came out of the game late in their week 4 game. So Case Cookus got the start. Hopefully Corral is better and able to go this week. I However, for my pick, I am going to go with the Birmingham Stallions. Whether it's Matt Corral or Case Cookus back there at quarterback, I think that this offense should still be able to run better than San Antonio's offense. Case Cookus, if he does start, would get another week of preparation, and instead of having a short week going into a Friday game, have a longer week going into a Sunday game to help prepare and hopefully not have as many miscues as he had starting against Memphis. And if it's Matt Corral, hopefully he's healthy. He clearly knows this offense. He's been playing very well in the starts that he has had. He's still, I think, 4th in the league in passing yards, and he's only started about 3 full games for them. So I do think that I do think that Birmingham gets the victory here over the San Antonio Brahmas. I don't know what the Brahmas are going to do offensively, whether they try to go back to Kellen Mond or they keep Jarrett Garantano, but just whatever it is, I think they just need to try to figure out how to get their offense going. I don't think they get it going that well against the Birmingham Stallions. So I do think Birmingham comes out of here with the victory. Let me know in the comments who you guys think going to win this week. Any matchups you're excited to see. I'm very excited for the Renegades Battlehawks game. I think that'll be a very good game, a very high scoring game. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time.